So for the first time in more than 50 years, humans flew to the moon and came all the way back. Artemis 2, it was just a spectacular success. And you might think NASA would be taking a victory lap, but they're not. They can't. Because what comes next is so incredibly ambitious, it's pushing the agency to its absolute limit, starting with a problem they really thought they had a handle on. Right, so on April 10th, you had 4 astronauts splashing down in the Pacific. It was the end of a nearly perfect 10-day mission. I mean, they swung around the far side of the moon, they broke Apollo 13's old distance record, and they proved that the Orion capsule can absolutely keep people alive out there in deep space. It was a huge, triumphant return.
Because hiding inside that picture-perfect landing was a stubborn, dangerous flaw. It's a problem that's popped up before, and it's one that NASA absolutely has to solve before it can even think about taking the next, much, much bigger step.
As soon as that Orion capsule was pulled out of the water, the real focus wasn't on the crew anymore. It was on the piece of hardware that brought them home, the heat shield. And, well, the news wasn't all good. Here's the thing. This wasn't a new problem. After the first uncrewed Artemis I mission, the heat shield came back with some really unexpected damage. So for Artemis 2, NASA actually changed the re-entry plan to try and lessen the stress. But the problem showed up again. Chunks of the shield still broke off, leaving these divots and cracks. Now, the shield worked, everyone got home safe, but it didn't work the way the computer models said it was supposed to. And that's a big deal. To really get the stakes here, just think about this. That capsule slams into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour. That generates temperatures up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. There is zero room for error. So any kind of unexpected behavior from that heat shield, that is a major, major concern. And yeah, the shield, it isn't their only headache. The mission managers, they're already wrestling with a valve redesign, a finicky toilet, you do not want that in space, and a whole list of other small but critical issues. All of this is on a super compressed 15-month timeline before the next launch is supposed to happen. So, because of all these challenges, the mission we were all waiting for, that incredible triumphant return to the lunar surface, well, that plan has been completely thrown out and rewritten. Get this, Artemis 3 is no longer going to the moon. I know. Instead of that historic landing, it's now become this highly complex test flight that's just going to stay in low Earth orbit, and it's scheduled for mid-2027. The crew's new job is to link up with the brand new lunar landers from SpaceX and Blue Origin and just see if the hardware actually works. NASA's actually comparing it to Apollo 9. You remember that one? Probably not, and that's the point. It was the mission that flew the lunar module for the first time, but just in Earth orbit. It wasn't glamorous at all, but without that boring dress rehearsal, Apollo 11 would have been impossible. That's what Artemis 3 is now. It's that unglamorous but absolutely essential test run. And the complexity is just mind-boggling. I mean, just look at the plan to fuel up SpaceX's Starship lander. It needs them to launch the lander itself, then a totally separate fuel depot, and then at least 14 more tanker flights just to fill it up. This is an orbital ballet that has never, ever been attempted on this kind of scale. Okay, so let's assume that whole dress rehearsal works. The main event then shifts to Artemis 4, which is now slated for early 2028. This is the new first landing. And its destination? It is unlike anywhere humans have ever set foot. We are not going back to the flat, sunny plains of the Apollo missions. Nope. The lunar South Pole is a landscape of extremes, of permanent deep shadow right next to blinding sunlight. It's a place of incredible danger and even greater opportunity. Inside these craters, where sunlight has literally never reached, the temperatures just plummet to negative 390 degrees Fahrenheit. It's one of the coldest places in the entire solar system. So what would it even look like to stand at the edge of one? You'd see nothing, just absolute blackness, a total void. There's no atmosphere to scatter the light around. It's a truly alien and frankly hazardous environment for any astronaut to try and navigate. But that extreme cold, that's precisely why NASA is going, because locked away in that permanent darkness is the single most valuable resource you can find in space: water, frozen as solid ice for billions of years. And finding water ice, oh, that is the ultimate game changer. It's drinking water, sure. It's breathable oxygen, which is great. But the real prize? It's rocket fuel. If you have access to water, you can turn the moon from just a place we visit into a self-sustaining base, a cosmic gas station for trips to the rest of the solar system. And this is where the ambition just goes off the charts. With Artemis 5 and all the missions that follow, the goal completely shifts from exploration to, well, occupation. From planting flags to actually building a permanent home. And the pace they're planning is relentless. Artemis V, launching just months after that first landing, is going to deliver a rover and the first pieces of infrastructure. By 2032, just a few years later, the goal is to have a base that can support crews living there continuously. The long-term vision is just incredible. We're talking crews rotating every 6 months, using lunar soil to 3D print new structures, even a small nuclear reactor to provide power during that brutal 2-week-long lunar night. The moon stops being a destination and actually becomes a factory. But, and this is a big but, none of this is a sure thing. The entire Artemis program is basically a high-wire act, and it's facing huge risks from pretty much every direction you can imagine. First, you've got the geopolitical pressure. China has been very clear about its goal to land humans on the moon by 2030 and build its own base there. So if NASA's 2028 target slips even a little bit, that 2-year lead, it could just completely evaporate. And these risks, they all form a critical chain. Technically, the landers and that crazy orbital refueling plan, totally unproven. Politically, the program's $4 billion price tag per launch makes it a constant target for budget cuts. And the schedule itself is just so tight, there's no room for any major failure. Every single link in this chain has to hold, or the whole thing could fall apart. But let's bring it all back to what we know for sure. Artemis 2 was a massive, massive achievement. It proved the rocket works, the capsule works, the life support systems can do the job. It proved we have the fundamental ability to get humans to the moon and, most importantly, bring them home safely. You see, the success of Artemis 2 answered a huge question. The journey back to the moon is possible. But it opened up a much bigger, much more complicated question that the next decade is going to try and answer. We proved we can get back there. The question now is, can we actually stay?